Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and today we're going to talk about SmackDown Live for December 20th, 2016. Joined, as always, by Wrestling Inc. founder Raj Giri. Raj, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. And do you want to introduce our additional guest this morning?
Yeah, we got Wrestling Inc. feature writer Chris Callicutt. Chris, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me. Look forward to talking about SmackDown. It was another good show, I believe.
Yeah, so we're going to go through SmackDown Live segment by segment, match by match, and then after we're going to talk a little bit about 205 Live, talk about what happened on Talking Smack last night, and sort of where we're going into next week, right after the holiday, with SmackDown Live doing their wild card final concept that was introduced last night, and I'm still not entirely clear on. So we'll talk about all of that and more on this week's episode. So let's start with how the show opened last night, and with SmackDown Live, we were in Detroit, Michigan, and we finally had the title match between James Ellsworth and AJ Styles for the WWE title. Chris, was this all you'd been hoping for?
Well, they were going to dub it the Motor City Miracle. You know, they had to throw off something there. But I posted something this morning. It was what it should have been. As much as the build up and whatnot is exactly what it should have been. It should have been AJ being dominant to put Ellsworth back down the card a bit. But it is what it should have been.
Raj,
I thought it was great. I think James Ellsworth. He's basically been been there to allow AJ Styles to keep running in place since he's been done with his feud with Dean Ambrose. They don't really have anyone else until Cena comes back next week. So I don't think this feud has helped AJ at all, but him destroying him, I think, was the right way to end it. It made AJ look strong. He looked great. And I thought this was the perfect way to kind of end this whole thing.
It was just odd to me after all this buildup, the delay, doing it at this top of the show. My first thought was seeing how just annihilated Ellsworth was and how quickly it was over, as I was like, well, this is over now. Like, Ellsworth, the shine is off. Vince is over the joke. And I thought this was going to be his exit for a while until he showed back up later in the episode.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder exactly how long that WWE contract was for.
Yeah.
Was it for a month or, for a year? But then, we saw later in the show with Carmella, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no comedy in the Ellsworth Styles match. I mean, that was the thing. They didn't do anything to pace it out or really make it a feature. To me, it was just like, well, we have to get this over with, almost. I mean, it wasn't a very entertaining match, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was entertained. I thought I don't think you want a competitive match between Ellsworth and AJ. Not even a little.
But something. I mean, an Ellsworth match. I mean, let's not put too long a tail on this kite, but I mean, an Ellsworth match has some qualities to it, as we've come to know it, right? I mean, it's got a little of that sort of silent film era where he's running around, he's doing his little hijinks. I mean, since his first match with Braun Strowman, I don't think we've seen anything this straightforward or lacking in some sort of entertainment or goofy charm.
Well, right. But the story. Oh, sorry. Because the storyline has always been like AJ would toy with him, right? And then Dean would cost him. But now you got Dean out, and now AJ just wants to get it over with. So I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah. So it was what it was, and he did show up later in the show, which we will talk about as we get to it. They did carry him out on a stretcher, which I thought was a very nice touch. So that match ended with Dolph Ziggler coming out and talking about their title match that is set to happen next week. And then, of course, that was interrupted by Baron Corbin. So that came out. It set it up for later in the show that there was going to be a Ziggler-Corbin match. I'll ask you both this. Rush, to you first. Do you think that it's wise for them to do anything sort of with Ziggler and Corbin, which it looks like they're going back in that direction now, given that, I mean, I forgot how long that went on, but wasn't that like Baron Corbin's first 3 months in the WWE on the main roster was him feuding with Dolph Ziggler?
Yeah, I don't know if they're back to feuding. I mean, they might be because they don't really have anything else for them right now. If this was just something to get them to next week and make it a three-way. I like that they're trying to move guys up the ladder. just the selfish part of me wanted to see a one-on-one AJ Styles Dolph Ziggler match, just because I think it'd be fantastic. Even though I think without question, Styles should win and clean. But I hope they're not going back to Ziggler and Corbin, because they did that to death already, and it wasn't that great to begin with the first time.
Yeah, definitely agree there. I'm glad to see Corbin moving up a couple steps. I think he has, whether you watch Talking Smack or not, he's fantastic on Talking Smack. And so is everybody else as far as that goes, as far as the unscripted promos. But I like seeing him moving up the card a bit. Big powerhouse, his finishing moves, Deep Six is fantastic. I watched his work on NXT and saw him grow from sort of the ground up. He's one of those WWE projects. So I'm sort of glad to see it for him, but I don't want to see too much of Ziggler and Corbin again, because again, we've seen that for 3 months already. But if it moves somebody in the right direction, I'm okay with it, for a bit.
And we'll talk about this when we talk about 205 Live, but they got to move Talking Smack and 205 Live, because it's weird to go from SmackDown to 205 Live and then back to kind of SmackDown with Talking Smack. The flow is just odd.
They know they've got you captive waiting for Talking Smack.
I don't think that many people stay. I bet you Talking Smack viewership is down since 205 Live started.
Oh, absolutely. But look, on the network viewership is a game of inches. I mean, they know that if we can get 100,000, 50,000 people that want to watch Talking Smack Live, that will sit through 205 Live to get there. I mean, I think they're just tossing everything they can at it right now.
But I bet you they could probably get more if they had 205 Live before SmackDown and then Talking Smack, right after.
Oh no, I agree.
Right. Yeah, and I think also they would keep the crowd. That 205 Live should warm up the crowd for SmackDown instead of everybody heading for the exits. And it's basically, you can hear a pin drop in most matches for 205 Live right now.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, production-wise though, look, they're invested in the cruiserweights and they're invested in 205 Live. Talking Smack is an afterthought. They're like, hey, if we get half the viewership we used to get for Talking Smack, I mean, that costs them nothing, and anything of note that happens on there gets folded into the recap package at the opening of the next SmackDown. So I think the cruiserweights are more their priority.
I mean, it remains to be seen. I'm curious to see if 205 Live does more viewers than Talking Smack. Right now, so on if you look at the most popular shows on the WWE network, let's see here, 205 Live doesn't appear on the first page, so it's so that's kind of where it's at. But I think it's great that they're committed, but I think there's an issue with, if you had NXT airing at the same time as 205 Live right after SmackDown, I think you'd have the same problem. I think just people tuning out, the masses don't watch it. It's more, you got a percentage of the audience that watches it every week. So, I mean, I think moving it before is probably the right thing. I mean, ideally, you'd have a separate taping, like you do it with the NXT tapings or something. But the problem with that is you have to tie it in with Raw, which is live, and if someone gets injured at the tapings, on Raw, and then you have them taped for the next 4 weeks, on 205 Live, it causes continuity issues. But I think, just the simple thing is just move it before.
Yeah, I think the challenge that they're facing now is, a little different than the one before. I mean, the idea coming into this year was probably let's get the broadest audience possible for our product and get as many people possible to pay attention to our product. And now I feel like they're, instead of going wide with it, they're going deep and saying, let's take the hardcore fans and trying to get them to watch as much of our product as possible. And doing that with whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the cruiserweights, now the UK title. I just think it's going to get to a point where how much is too much with all the pay-per-views. I mean, Raj, we've talked about this before in terms of fatigue. I mean, can you go week in and week out? I mean, Chris, can you go week in and week out, 5 days a week, 6 days a week? At what point do you just go? I mean, for me, it got to the point where I think at 4 days a week, I was like, okay, you know what? NXT is no longer, because so many people moved up. I was like, I can't watch NXT week in and week out with that regularity anymore.
Right. I think I'm actually one of those in the small percentage that is a glutton for punishment for sometimes. So where, I cover 205 Live for the site as well as NXT. And to I mean, to me, those shows are enjoyable. Those are sort of my niche market. I've grown up watching the cruiserweights. I was a WCW guy back in the day with the cruiserweights. So I like the reincarnation there. But when it comes to, like, say, SmackDown and Raw, the differential there at 9:30 watching Raw, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's an hour and a half left. 9:30 on 9:30 on SmackDown, I'm like, oh, it's time for the main event. It's just two completely different feels. But as far as viewership fatigue, yeah, obviously I get that as well. But I'm one of those that likes the vast majority of the product.
I think where it really hurts too is like independents and like TNA and Lucha Underground, because by Thursday, who's ready to watch more wrestling,
Right.
And especially, lower budget, stuff that's been taped, sometimes for months. So, WWE, they're oversaturating. It hurts their product, but I think it really hurts the indies too. Like, I don't know how many people I'm really rooting for Flow Slam. I hope they succeed, but I wonder how many people are going to have that desire right now to catch even more wrestling than what's already on.
And that could be strategic. I mean, that could very well be how they compete right now. I mean, they do those surveys. WWE sends out those surveys all the time, and they probably realize. I mean, look, Lucha Underground, what the El Rey Network is in a teensy percentage of a fraction of the country. I think most people that watch Lucha Underground, probably a good percentage, watch it illegally in some form. I think that WWE probably looked at it and was like, you know what, we can take this out. We had one or two more programs to our weekly rotation, and their viewership, there's going to be just too much competition for eyeballs at that point.
I mean, it definitely could be. I don't know. I doubt they worry too much about it, just because Lucha Underground's doing maybe 100,000 viewers a week. Mm-hmm. And especially this season, you don't really hear anyone talking about it anymore.
Yeah, it's weird how that dropped off, right? I mean, especially like with Ray coming to the show. I mean, you would have thought that Lucha was gonna, like, it's the way things typically go with the buzz it had going into season 2. That's where things go wider and go bigger, and instead of just boom off a cliff in terms of me hearing people talking about it or reading about it.
Yeah, well, I think at first you had it was different, which was great. But at some point you need to have that storytelling that keeps you invested. You can't just be different anymore. And I think when you're having the deaths and all that stuff, because you got your wrestling world, right? You got your wrestling universe, and then each TV show, Game of Thrones, they have their own universe. Lucha Underground isn't removed enough from WWE, ROH. They're bringing in, Rey Mysterio under his real name. I mean, his WWE, the name he's been using forever. And then to have people dying and coming back, you just don't buy it at all. Whereas you would on a normal TV show. You know what I mean? Like on a Game of Thrones, when a major character dies, you're into it. It resonates. Whereas on Lucha Underground, it doesn't at all. And it just seems like kind of a waste. I think the storylines need to change to more like just the basic, two guys you want to see wrestle each other, and they have a season to kind of build that up, and they go at it at the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I like what I've watched of Lucha. I like the shades of like that they know like a little hat tip to like a Mortal Kombat type feel, or movies like Bloodsport. I like that they're doing stuff that there's a little more cinematic and narrative and storytelling. But but that's the problem though, is that with everything going on with Lucha, I'm like, I'm going to catch up the high points and the recaps after the season. I don't feel like I need to watch it week in and week out.
Yeah, and to that point, if you're doing that, I think that's great too. If you're creating a completely different universe, then don't have the guys come in with their old WWE gimmicks and things like that. Like when you get a new actor on a TV show, they don't come in with their old character. You got to give them
what they spent for Ray, though. I mean, they're not going to rebrand him. I mean, that probably was half their talent budget or a quarter of it for a season.
Yeah, but I think that's where you get into the issues, where when you're bringing them in as their old selves, then it doesn't keep your environment completely different.
Yeah, it's less suspension of disbelief.
Yeah,
which it takes some to be a wrestling fan in general. So kind of segueing back to SmackDown Live though. So this is what I think the problem is now. So we're in this ultra competitive environment for stuff to watch, and we've got Corbin and Ziggler last night, and then we follow that immediately. We follow the setup for that match immediately with yet another replay of something we saw just a few months ago, and that's The Miz versus Apollo Crews. I mean, that's where I worry that they're just last night felt like they were going backwards in so many levels because Chris, to your point, it's like if I'm watching all of this and I feel like, okay, I've seen The Miz versus Apollo. You know, I mean, that was a buildup. That was a pay-per-view match that they had for the title a few months back. It's like, you know, if you have the option, are you gonna DVR through that match? Or are you gonna just skip and watch the high points? I mean, is that gonna hold your attention for a complete segment or two?
Well, in a sense, this is sort of the rebirth of Apollo Crews back on television, starting with Tribute to the Troops in a way, to where he got a little bit of shine. And I think this match was probably one of his better matches on his main roster run. Even though it was short, he was able to showcase his skill set. Still doesn't have much of a character per se, but as far as his athleticism goes, I mean, his skills are off the chart. So I'm okay with them trying to rebuild him as a contender, to give Miz something to do until this Ambrose thing rolls around. So,
yeah. I mean, Glenn, I mean, it's not like they're going back to that feud. This was a throwaway TV match, you know, which more than half the matches on WWE TV are pretty much filler. You know, they're to kind of. So this was used, you know, just as a setup to build the Ambrose, storyline, and I thought they did a great job of that. I love that Miz promo at the end and the way he does. He's totally believable when he does that stuff. And Renee Young slapping. I thought that whole bringing that relationship in, I think it just made it way more real than a lot of the storylines they come up with. And I thought that was great. And what Chris said, I thought Apollo Crews looked really good. So
Apollo looked fantastic. Definitely. You know, I worry if they were to do it as a storyline again. But so we'll talk about what happened with Renee in a second. A question to you guys, because I didn't watch it. I skipped it. I assumed it was non-essential viewing. This year, Tribute to the Troops, like way invested in the continuity of both shows, right? I mean, I heard references on Raw too. People were talking about, oh my God, following up on what happened at Tribute to the Troops. I think that was interesting this year that was a full-on storyline advancer and creator. You know,
did you watch it, Chris?
I did. They actually intertwined some storylines on both brands fairly well. It wasn't your typical everybody pop for the baby face, win in 5 minutes and go home. Most of the faces did win still, besides maybe the Wyatt family, but they're quasi face anyway. So you know, but they sort of intermingled the storylines fairly well this year. It had sort of a different feel to it for sure.
How do you do the Wyatts at Tribute to the Troops? I'm the eater of worlds, but I respect protecting our country. You know, that's so like, just keep some people out of it when it gets to real life, you know?
Yeah. But I will say the ratings were way down for Tribute to the Troops. And I think to a fault, they continued the storylines. Well, for instance, and I know a lot of people are going to, as soon as I say this, there's going to be backlash, but hear me out. I don't think the New Day should have lost the tag titles at Roadblock last Sunday, because they had just announced the match on Tribute to the Troops, which a fraction of the people watched, you know, that watched Raw. So they never even announced that match on Raw. They had just made a big deal about New Day setting the record. So why not build that match for a couple of weeks? Say like, you know, Cesaro and Sheamus coming, saying they want a rematch. And then, you know, over a couple of weeks, you know, add a stip saying if Cesaro and Sheamus don't win, then, you know, then it's they got to disband or something like that. Like they're done as a team, or Sheamus says we're done if we don't win the tag titles. Then you build a tag title match on Raw and do the title change. But just doing it on a show where a lot of people didn't even know there was a tag match set, I think was kind of a mistake.
Yeah, no, it's odd because Tribute to the Troops, I mean, I've caught segments of it in the past, and yeah, it's a feel-good thing that WWE does. I mean, it's patriotic, everyone feels good about it, we give a lot of love to our armed forces. But yeah, this year, I mean, because I had the same reaction you did at Roadblock. You know, when that match happened, I was like, I don't remember that there was a tag title match, and you know, having it announced there, and it was on a Wednesday. I mean, on a night that typically people aren't tuning into the USA for that. It was very odd to me to feel like there was something I missed on all programming this week because I didn't watch that.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. But so let's talk about what happened with the. Oh, whoa. Hold on. I'm getting a loop back there. So yeah, let's talk about what happened with Renee and The Miz. So it's been hinted at they did everything leading up to this point. I mean, Talking Smack, there were a lot of jokes that were made about it, but The Miz Fawn calling out Renee Young for her relationship with Dean Ambrose, and Renee slapping The Miz as a result. So what do you think about this, Chris, as far as involving Renee in the storyline? I know online everyone was like, well, this is going to be more of a Total Divas storyline that they're shooting it for, as far as Renee's sort of reveal full on with this. But what do you think about them sort of involving, you know, an announcer and a performer in an angle like this based on real life?
Right. And I think we actually had an article earlier in the week that talking to Renee Young about whether she would wrestle. And she would say, sure. But she has absolutely no training. So I don't know what exactly this is leading to, but I enjoy the reality type of feel to the storyline. And, you know, I really do think that they could go somewhere with this because you have Maurice there as well to play the foil to Renee. So I think this, instead of making you feel like Ambrose is going a step down, I think this actually makes it feel like a secondary main event feud, even though I don't know where it's going, but I like the potential.
I agree. I thought to that point, like, you know, if you were to hear Ambrose is going to feud with The Miz next a month ago, you'd think it's a step down, but feel like they're doing enough to make it feel important. So I like it. I don't think it's going to lead to like a match between Renee or Maurice. They could always do like a tag with Ambrose and Renee and just have her do, you know, a couple spots. But I don't know if that fits Ambrose's character really. So I think it's just to, you know, further the feud, and I liked it. I like bringing reality into it more.
I would pay money, not a large sum, but to see Dean Ambrose with Renee doing a tag against The Miz and Maurice. That just sounds like such a goofy, weird match. Yeah. I mean, because we've seen the announcers get involved in Summer Rae on NXT is a great example. She went from being an announcer to feuding with Paige in NXT a few years ago, you know, and doing stuff in the ring. But yeah, I think with Renee, her background does not suggest that bumps are in her future.
Right. I mean, they could do even though they don't really do that anymore, but you know, the angle where they start fighting outside the ring, you know, the whole cat fight thing. Yeah. But I think that's the best word to limit to. But you know, I thought Renee is so good just at everything she does. Like, and so I thought she made it believable, and Miz was so swarmy as a heel that he made it believable. I was surprised Ambrose didn't come out or do anything, but you got time to do that.
What I really liked about it was the very end. After she slapped him, she was throwing off the microphone. She looked ticked off, and she went storming down to the timekeeper's area. I thought that was just sort of a nice little acting touch that made it feel, you know, real. So
speaking of real, that was followed, interestingly enough, by a promo segment with Natalya, Carmella, and Nikki Bella. And that you know, was I mean, that was really real, right? I mean, this was between this and on Talking Smack, you know, I'm not saying it was on this level, but this was like Natalya's pipe bomb, right? I mean, this was her laying it all out there, her grievances, her issues. And I'm not saying it had the effect, originality, or interest of that, but this was Natalya laying some very perhaps real you know, gripes that she had against Nikki Bella, talking about, you know, Nikki and her relationship with John Cena, Natalya feeling passed over. I mean, I guess the best question with this is, you know, did it make you care about this feud going forward if we're going to see now Nikki and Natalya going at it?
I personally thought this segment just felt like Days of Our Lives until, like, I'll admit that the line about, you know, Cena not wanting to marry Nikki was good. Until that, it felt way too soap opera-ish, but you know, I'm glad they did the reveal because this whole storyline was getting a little long in the tooth. And you know, I like seeing Natalya involved. She's the best. I think she's the best. Her and Becky Lynch are the best wrestlers on the SmackDown brand. So yeah, I thought it was fine, especially with that last line. But them having to say bitch over and over to kind of like they're like doing that with all the women's feuds on SmackDown to, like, you know, put an exclamation mark on it. It seems a little forced, but yeah, it gives them something to do.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat there. I even had a note that this was Total Divas 2.0 because even though the Renee stuff kind of felt like it, this definitely personified that to me. I haven't really cared for this storyline from day one. This gave me an inkling of hope that there's something to it, but this one just hasn't done a ton for me since the jump.
I thought it was good, you know, at least as far as advancing things. But then talking smack, it was a little too bullet points at the end. I don't know if you guys watched that, but Natalia just again, I'm a heart. You know who my uncle is. I was, you know, just this whole. I mean, that's my only issue with talking smack. Is sometimes you can tell it's like when they do improv and then they realize they get to the end of the well of the stuff they were supposed to say, and they just keep going back to repeating those same beats again and again.
Yeah, it sounded like Natalia didn't know what she was supposed to say for some of those questions, you know, like so she just didn't know how to wing it storyline wise because she probably wasn't given, you know, any heads up on kind of what to say.
And as a heel, you can always just respond with, well, that's a stupid question. You know, you can just always sort of like shoo it away. I mean, heels have the easiest out ever with that. So it's amazing to me that they don't, that they feel the need to just sort of go on and on and on, you know? So yeah, that was interesting last night. You know, we'll touch more on talking smack a little bit later. But Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper last night. So Chris, what did you think of this match with the Orton, Randy Orton, Luke and Bray coming out there, ending with Dean Ambrose winning, but then getting attacked by the Wyatts, and that side of Luke holding up the belts, man. Like again, talking about, you know, mixing sort of mythology with the real world. That just looks kind of goofy to me to see a backwoods guy holding up these Roman gladiator inspired bright blue belts.
Well, what I did like is actually, I think Luke had them linked together and then hung them around his neck instead of carrying them on each shoulder, which I thought was kind of an interesting touch. It sort of fits their persona. Mm-hmm. But Luke Harper has been a great hand for WWE for how many years now? And it's finally taken them this long to sort of let him loose a little bit. I mean, he's really good in the ring. Personality-wise, he's only going to be but so much because of who he's associated with. He's sort of the quiet assassin of that group. But I'm glad that there's finally a little bit of a spotlight on Harper. The match was fine, if not good. And we'll see where it goes from there. I really like the attack. And then Miz picking up the scraps was probably my favorite part of the segment.
Two guys wrestling in jeans. You don't see that every day.
No, they don't.
I think they need to give Harper some wins, though. You know, like he just never wins, and really comes with every week. You know, Rowan was kind of in that role, and now, you know, Luke Harper they keep making him look like the weak link. But I gotta ask you guys this: if you put Luke Harper in a black leather suit, you got Mick Foley from Raw, don't you think?
You got like a weird sort of leather daddy straight out of Folsom Street Fair going on.
Yeah, they're looking similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's the best move. But I mean, with the Wyatts, we talked about this the other night. We were talking about the belts. I think the Wyatts should do like a Wyatt. If they're going to keep those belts, they should do a custom Wyatt makeover on those belts, something that matches them a bit more, you know, because for me, that's what just takes it out. I think with the Wyatts, they really have to protect the context they present them in, and they do in most fashions. But yeah, I would love to see them get something akin to like Foley's, you know, original like hardcore champion belt.
You know what I'd kind of like to, you know, what might be kind of cool is if they expanded the Freebirds rule and added a fourth member, and any four members could defend the title, and you bring in Chris Hero as a member of the Wyatts, and you have him and Luke Harper kind of, you know, as another dominant tag team. So you got like two dominant, you know, a dominant tag team, and then Bray and Randy Orton. And I think that would really, you know, they're already re-energized, but add even more to it.
There's really only one spot Chris Hero should go on the main roster if he's going to be on a tag team. That's back with Cesaro. But I digress there with the Kings of Wrestling. But
yeah, I'll be curious with Hero. So have you heard any more about this roster? Are they really going to bring him back as Cassius Ohno?
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't think they've decided that. I would think enough time has passed, and now they're not forcing everyone to change their names that they wouldn't feel compelled to do it. It's not like Cassius Ohno got a big name in NXT that they have to stick with it. So I doubt that they would go back to that, but you never know, because especially now since they already have a KO.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say there. You have Kevin Owens that already has that sort of same mantra, so they kind of have to go with his real name this time around, I believe, just to keep the notoriety.
Yeah, I think Chris Hero, they can do a lot. He's got a very versatile, and he's been very versatile in his look and his characters that he's done. So I'll be curious to see how they present him coming back to the WWE. So in a moment, we're going to talk about what were my favorite segments of the night. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. But first, I want to take a moment and give some love to our sponsor of this episode, which is DDP Yoga. You've heard us talk about it here week in and week out. DDPY has changed countless lives. Look at the current roster. There are guys there like Chris Jericho and Mick Foley that have benefited immensely from DDP Yoga. And of course, guys like Jake Roberts, Scott Hall as well. Gold Dust, Dustin Runnels, best shape of his life. Credits DDPY for getting him there. So if you've been thinking about taking control of your own health, your own fitness going into the new year, we want you to go to DDPyoga.com/wrestling inc, because right now for a limited time, you can get the DVDs for 25% off. And that includes 3 months of full access to the DDP Yoga Now app, or you can just get full access to the app for 25% off for 3 months using our URL, ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. And I'll tell you, they've got a great deal. You want to do this for Christmas, for the holidays, if you're getting someone a gift, because you can buy a max or combo pack at 25% off and get 50% off the second one. So get one for yourself, get one for a friend or a loved one. Use the buddy system, work out together with DDP Yoga, DDPY, and take control of your own health and fitness. Stop procrastinating. If you've been on the fence thinking about it, now's the best time to get on board. Head on over to ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Stop procrastinating. Really, seriously, 2017 is almost here. You want to look like you did in 2016? Come on, you look good, but you can do better with DDP Yoga. And we thank them for sponsoring the show.
That's a perfect New Year's resolution there. Absolutely. And if my video has been popping up, you see I have a nice little montage for the DDP Yoga Twitter handle, which you can find it there as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and tweet it DDP Yoga. Let them know that you heard about it on Wrestling Inc. They love to know that we're giving them love week in and week out. So let's talk a bit about this. I have to say, for me, this was the match of the night, because such a throwback. Alexa Bliss versus the mystery opponent, La Luchadora. Chris, I'll go to you first. How many seconds in before you realized it was Becky Lynch?
When she said "Olay" in an Irish accent, I caught on to that one pretty quickly. But I'll be honest here. She's probably a better luchador than the actual luchadors on the roster.
Yeah. Raj?
Yeah, I had even tweeted out, like, she needs to stop making sounds, because you could tell it's her, I mean, as soon as they came out, whenever you have that over-the-top costume, I think it's usually pretty clear that it's whoever they're feuding with. But I thought it was entertaining. I definitely found it funny.
But here's what was awesome about this. Becky Lynch wrestled that match in an entirely different style. I mean, now this is a woman who literally went to clown school. And you could tell watching that. I mean, for me, my wife and I were discussing, first of all, like, pretty sure that's Becky Lynch right when I saw the outfit. And then my wife's like, oh, I don't know. But then when I was watching the movies, I was like, it was so exaggerated and different. She looked like she was having so much fun with it. I mean, it was just like, oh yeah, this is Becky. I mean, she took that ball and ran with it. It's been a while since they've done something like this.
Yes. Well, some people bringing up the El Locale, and John Armstrong in the comments is saying how it reminded him of Mr. America. And that was what I thought at first. Yeah. I was like, that would have been great if she came out as Miss America, and just a little throwback. But yeah, I thought it was a fun little, old school segment.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I like how it advanced things for their title match next week. So Becky and Alexa rematch for the WWE SmackDown Live Women's title next week. I thought that was a fun segment. I thought it was good. I think we talked about this in terms of Raw right now. And look at what's happening. I mean, all these stories coming out that Vince, was never fully on board with Sasha Banks, and he thinks Bayley versus Charlotte is the money feud, and that's where he's going with it. What I love about SmackDown, in being a little more of the hardcore fan show, is that they can do stuff like this. And, Becky, I don't think has as much pressure as a Sasha or Charlotte does. I think that they're the face of SmackDown, but SmackDown, in a way, because it is still treated like the B show, they have sort of a safety net to do more experimental segments like this. I don't think we ever would have seen this on Raw in the main women's feud.
Yeah. So sorry, Raj, go ahead.
I mean, creatively, it's funny because, everything is still through Vince. So it's, but I mean, they do have different creative heads on Raw and SmackDown. It's just weird how SmackDown, in my opinion, seems to destroy Raw every week. Unless except for the weeks where Raw has something really big happen. I thought SmackDown again. I never was bored during tonight's show. It moved fast, and even segments like this. I feel like if you did it on Raw, it probably would. There's a good chance it would be met with a negative reaction.
And to your point, Glenn, I think you're right in the sense that Becky has a little bit less pressure on her. She's the lone horsewoman over on SmackDown. So she's sort of the go-to person besides, say, the Nikki and the Natalias. So she has a little less pressure. She actually looks like she's having fun. I mean, that's good to see. I mean, a lot of your talents, sometimes you can tell they're phoning it in. I don't think she ever phones it in. I think she's having a blast out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it's the women's picture on Raw is, and maybe it's just because of Charlotte, and I think Charlotte not really always getting over with the audience, and when she's on the mic in particular. So I think that with the Raw women's scene, I just feel like they're on such a big stage. There's more pressure there. I do not ever get the impression that even with Bayley, fun is not in the first 3 words I would use to describe the women's picture on Raw. But with SmackDown, I like that we have that. I like that we have that sense of fun in what they're doing.
And what's helped this, honestly, is Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
Watching her from NXT when she first started all the way up to now, her acting, her facial expressions are spot on. I mean, they're hilarious. They're great. And her in-ring acumen has gotten better as well. So she's sort of been one of those most improved candidates for 2016, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. So we went from that to God. I love when they bring celebrities on the show. It's because you're always guaranteed that it's gonna be weird. It always is. And we had Ryan Phillippe, star of USA Shooter, which I don't know if you guys have been reading about this. That show apparently has been a huge success, like the biggest scripted show on USA as far as traditional programming, and that airs after a SmackDown Live on the USA Network. So it already been picked up for a second season. Ryan Phillippe was there looking for Randy Orton, ran into Mojo Rawley backstage, and they had a nice back and forth. And then Kurt Hawkins showed up, and actually, I don't know about you guys, but that Cruel Intentions joke, I was like, wow, I actually laughed at a Kurt Hawkins bit. I thought it was actually sort of clever. But Phillippe out doing commentary on the match. I mean, they really shoehorned him into this, a solo match between Mojo and Kurt. So I want to see, what do you guys think of the match, and what do you think they should do with Mojo now that it looks like Zack Ryder is going to be out for at least 4 months? Raj, to you first.
I tweeted this, or I think I mentioned it in our comment section. I thought this was the best Mojo's looked on the main roster. He looked good. Ryan Phillippe, I mean, he didn't get booed at the end like most celebrities do, but that's because no one cared. I mean, it was just like silent. But I thought Mojo looked, when they did that backstage segment, I thought they were teasing Mojo teaming with Kurt Hawkins because they had tweeted about that, Zack Ryder had mentioned it. But yeah, I thought Mojo looked really good here. Now, I think I personally think if you turned him heel, got rid of the goofy persona, he could be onto something.
Yeah, I agree with Raj here for sure. This, I think, is the best Mojo we've seen, especially on the main roster. And he had some fun matches when he was pre-Hype Bro. When he was just Mojo on NXT, he had some good singles matches, albeit you're not going to get a 20-minute classic out of him. But as far as his dominant offense is sort of his football style of offense with the tackles and everything like that, he can probably get over with that and sort of tone down the hype stuff a little bit and just be good. I mean, I think he's definitely a project in the making, but I've never been a huge fan of Hawkins or Mojo, but I thought the match was fine and I didn't hate it at all. Yeah,
I think it's tough to stand out when you're putting these 4-team matches every week or 16 matches. So his football offense, it reminded me of what was his Monty Brown in TNA, when you do the pounds and stuff like that. I think drop the Hype Bro stuff and give him a good run.
But you know what Mojo's got in spades that a lot of these other single guys don't is Mojo does the Scott Hall thing, right? I mean, in terms of Mojo is not the top guy. Mojo carries himself like he's the top guy, and he will come out to that ring in terms of, I mean, just the hype and the energy. That's not fake. I mean, Curt Hawkins, when he walks out to the ring and some of these other guys, it looks like, you know, all it would take is like the dead silence if someone just yelled out, "You suck." I mean, you could see like the flinch, like they're just a step away from cracking with that facade. I think Mojo has just got it.
Well, I got to stop you real quick. Comparing Mojo to Scott Hall, there's a difference between.
No. It's a Scott Hall quote. Scott Hall's quote, his advice for wrestlers is,
okay,
if you're not the top guy in the company, the fans don't know that. They don't know what you're getting paid. You carry yourself and you present yourself like you are the top guy. That's the Scott Hall quote. And Mojo, I feel that from him. And I've seen him come out and do it to dead silence and empty arena. It doesn't faze him.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like a top guy to me. I mean, he comes out like not feeling shy or you know, but so did Doink. He's you know, there's a difference between a main event persona confidence and a prelim guy confidence. And I think he could get there. I mean, I think he showed he's got the, you know, he's got the believable offense. He's got the athletic background. I just think he comes across as goofy as hell when he's doing his, you know, hype stuff. So,
do you follow him on Twitter or on Snapchat? That's him. That's not the person. I mean, he is that guy. You know?
Which is weird because apparently he's a genius and was like the youngest guy to graduate with a master's degree or something from what was it, Maryland? He went to, I think. But I mean, my goodness, his persona and his intelligence level just. You know, they're like, wait a minute, which one's which here?
There's ways to do it without looking like a fool too. You know, like when he made his debut, and you know, when after Rusev destroyed Zack Ryder, and he's in Rusev's face, just going like, "Yeah, come on," and not doing anything.
Somebody get a clip of that. That was Raj's impression of Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, the good thing I'm really backlit, so you can't see me too well. But, he just came across as anyway. So
but he commits. But look, compare him. Okay, and you could tell they like him. And maybe it's the Gronk connection, right? His friendship with Gronkowski. But I mean, JBL from day one on SmackDown, you know, after the draft has been putting Mojo over. And compared to Curt Hawkins, who which was the commentator that referred to Curt as Chad Hawkins
it was
last
Morrow.
night? Yeah, I mean, like when your own announcement team, and it's not like he was new to the show. Hawkins has been in the mix for almost 5 months now, when they can't even get your name right. I mean, that's
well, the announce team in general was a mess during this match. I mean, the questions felt forced to Philippi. I mean, they didn't have a ton to talk about in the match, but I mean, this was kind of a bad segment for the announce team, but the guys in the ring actually pulled it off fairly well.
And you know what one thing that's always bugged me when they have these celebrities on is it's clear they're not watching the product, and when they keep that as part of the commentary, like when they're telling him like, "Oh, you don't know what Randy Orton's like now." Well, that means if he doesn't know, that means it's because he doesn't watch the show. Right, and you should make it that he knows what's going on. He knows that Randy Orton's changed, and make it that he's afraid to approach Randy Orton backstage because of what has happened with the Wyatts, as opposed to making him completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, minor gripe.
You know, well, it's always awkward because does anyone tune in? I mean, unless I could see lapsed fans coming back if someone's hosting, like when you hear like, "Oh my God, the Muppets are hosting Monday Night Raw." Think, well, maybe I haven't watched that in a while. That sounds like a train wreck. Sure, I'll give that a try. You know, but I don't think anyone was tuning in last night because they thought Ryan Phillippe was going to be on. But I could see though people that maybe watch Shooter that tune in early. You know, that's the thing. Shooter is such a big hit now; it's probably in a position to help SmackDown more than anything.
Well, yeah, and this wasn't done in a way to bring in viewers or Ryan Phillippe fans. It was done just to promote the show. So they didn't they didn't do a long segment with him or anything like that. He was just background dressing. So I thought it was well done. The commentary when they're talking about Shooter, it just, you know, is clear that they were, you know, they were told what to talk about. But other than that, this, you know, when I saw Mojo coming out for a singles match, I was like, all right, this is like a bathroom break match, but I thought this was really good too. I mean, I thought this was one of those episodes of SmackDown where there was no like a match on paper where I'm like, all right, I got to tune in and watch this, but everything was good.
Mojo, you know, my sort of last word on Mojo is this: if you're flipping the channels and you see Mojo for the first time, you might think his shtick is goofy, but he looks, you would think he's a star. You would think he is one of the main guys of the company if you're just an outsider looking in. And I'll tell you, you know, the first time I saw Enzo and Cass, same reaction where when I first saw the Endo stick, I was like, well, this is really silly and over the top. But I was like, oh yeah, but that's got to be one of the top guys. He's part of the reason people watch, you know? And I think Mojo has that same thing. If you look at it removed, just that confidence and swagger, a lot of guys on the roster don't have that. And he does. And I'm actually excited about him getting a singles run here. Quickly, what they're doing with the tag teams. So next Tuesday, we're going to have a four corners elimination match to determine the tag team champions between the Wyatts, the Usos, American Alpha, and was it the Vaude Villains that are the fourth?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much.
We'll see.
Oh, no, Rhino and Slater.
Rhino and Slater, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's an elimination match. I'm guessing it is. Was American Alpha in that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like how they keep doing these multi-tag team matches on SmackDown because I feel like people get lost in the shuffle. But it's something, I guess.
They've done too many of them, and it's at the expense. I mean, aside from Rhino and Slater, we haven't had a storyline. I mean, with the Wyatts were pre-existing characters that were dropped into this situation. They've yet to give us a reason to care about the Vaudevillains, the Ascension. They've barely given us a reason to care about American Alpha on the main roster. I mean, Brazongo, like the complete comedy. I mean, Rhino and Slater, that's been the storytelling in the tag division. Otherwise, it's these cluster F matches of let's get 10 guys in a ring together and see what happens.
Well, my guess would be, yeah, I don't know. I hope they don't have the Wyatts lose already because they're on such a hot streak. But my guess would be that either American Alpha or Rhino and Slater, beat them, and then that's your tag title feud, going for the next month or so.
Yeah, I don't think the Wyatts are going to lose here. There's really no reason for them to, but I think this will actually jumpstart a storyline between them and Alpha possibly. And I think it'll actually probably get a secondary storyline between Slater and Rhino. I think you might see the beginning of the end there again as well.
Have you guys heard anything backstage about why the Usos have been so start and stop?
Well, they were injured.
Oh, gotcha. So it is an injury.
Yeah. Was it Jay? Jay was injured. Yeah. So he was in a cast. I mean, he was on Talking Smack too, showing his cast. Was it last week or the week before? So yeah, they've been injured.
Yeah, they got to do something, man. I mean, American Alpha, there's a storyline waiting to happen there. I don't know if they can tell it against the against the Wyatts though. I think it's just, again, it's two totally different worlds that I don't know if they mesh well together. So the main event last night, Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler, and they had a back and forth. There was a double count at, but man, what does the WWE love to do next week? Ziggler versus Styles. Why not make it a triple threat match and involve Baron Corbin in it? So this is a nice elevation for Corbin to be in that picture, although I don't think he's going to win. I don't think Ziggler's going to win either. But what did you think about Ziggler versus Corbin, the return last night? And how do you feel about them going against AJ Styles next week, Chris?
I liked the match last night pretty well, actually. They worked nicely together. I didn't really hate any of their matches in their previous feud. They just didn't have any substance to work with because Corbin had just gotten put on the roster. But the match was good. Corbin looked dominant. Ziggler got his typical shots in. I think the double count out was probably the right way to go on this one, just based on they don't want to pin Corbin, obviously, and I think they want to keep Ziggler as strong as they can going forward. But I think AJ has to retain. And I think you might see an appearance from a couple of different people next week to go to your next title feud.
I think they should have left it as AJ versus Ziggler. And I mean, unless they got some big storyline in mind for next week, but I just don't think Corbin is quite ready yet. I think he could use another step up. Someone like an Ambrose, even though Ambrose is kind of tucked away, and the problem is there's not enough top or upper level guys. Orton's with the Wyatts, but I would like to see him do something before. And who knows, this might just be a 1 week thing, and then Corbin's back down to mid card or upper mid card. But I would have liked to just see it a Styles and Ziggler thing. But this at the same time, you want them to elevate talent. They've had their eyes on Corbin, so it's worth a shot.
I'm telling you, man, they're going to spin off. I just have a feeling Ziggler and Corbin is going to be what spins off back out of this, and we're going to go backwards I mean, it's just the shallowness of the roster. I mean, there's only so many pairings you can do that are plausible at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
same here. I mean, you kind of have to, especially if somebody shows up to challenge AJ next week after the match. So, which I think is almost imminently going to happen somehow.
yeah, I just feel like guys at that level. I mean, like Apollo is another one of them. It's just like they just keep rotating through, and it doesn't quite stick. So we should talk about the reemergence of James Ellsworth backstage. And do you guys think they're really going to do? I mean, poor Carmella. Like, there's going to be it's going to be like that's really like Ellsworth and Carmella. That's Carmella went from Enzo and Cass to James Ellsworth. That's going to be a comedy segment, I guess we're going to have for a couple weeks.
Hey, the crowd bought it. They were actually sort of whistling and sort of giggling a little bit. I mean, I thought it was going to get booed out of the building whenever she showed up, but I think the crowd actually enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't hate it. It'll be interesting to see what they can actually do with this pairing, because that's definitely an odd couple type of thing. But if anybody can pull it off, it's probably them.
We'll see. WWE relationship storylines usually don't. You can count them on one hand, like the number of ones that really went somewhere. But we'll see. It gives Ellsworth something to do. Carmella, I was hoping that Mickie James, that would be the feud when she gets back. So it gives Carmella some experience working with, someone at a high level. And they still could do it while they're doing this Ellsworth stuff on the side. But I don't know, man. This Ellsworth stuff's running out of steam fast. And after tonight, I just don't know what kind of legs it has. It'll be interesting. I don't know what kind of contract he did sign. I'm doubting it's a multi-year deal, but we'll see.
It's got to be better money than he was making with his promotion.
Oh, of course. I just mean, like, how long do you keep him on this, at this level? I mean, you could use him for comedy at the, in the cruiserweight level or something, or even in NXT. But I just think it's wearing out it wore out its welcome a while ago.
Well, I'll tell you, his reaction last night during the Styles match was where it was like, oh man. But then I remember Detroit. I mean, Detroit aren't they sort of famous as sort of a heel town in terms of reaction? Like, so I don't think Ellsworth is going to get, I mean, but during Styles, that's where it was, to me, that opening match, it felt like, oh, this is it for Ellsworth. Because I mean, the crowd was just like, there with AJ, like, yeah, let's get rid of this guy. Just
he could potentially be this generation's Brooklyn Brawler, and he'll never win a match again. But and just go out there and get the pop and then lose in 2 minutes. I mean, that's kind of what he should or could be. But he can actually work a little bit. We saw that with the longer Styles match. He can actually work a little bit. I'm sure. How long has he been on the Indies? I mean, several years.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, obviously the look's not going to get him very far, but the guy can go a little bit. So I mean, we'll see what they find for him in the future.
Yeah, and if you look at his indie career, I mean, he's done a lot of different characters there as well. I think it would actually be kind of funny if they were to bring some of those and have him try out some different shticks and personas. They could probably bring him back for a couple more funny segments going forward. But it's interesting too. I mean, with Styles, did you guys pick up on? I mean, a lot of those moves looked a little more pain-inducing than the typical ones, right? I mean, putting him on the corner of the announcer's table as opposed to through the announcer's table. I thought there were some interesting choices there.
Yeah, and when he rammed his head into the rope, I mean, it just seemed like that could cause whiplash. That immediately reminded me of Enzo Amore when he got injured from hitting that rope. The offense was definitely different, and I felt like the backbreaker onto the announce table was a little bit of a botch. But yeah, it looked brutal, like the stuff he was doing, and the slingshot, under the ring. Yeah, I mean, it looked like it hurt, but clearly Ellsworth was fine because he was doing that comedy stuff later.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose, though, just to sort of sell the beatdown and the dominance. I don't really think it was Styles being careless by any means.
Oh no,
I think
it
was
not at all.
Yeah,
I don't think Styles would ever be careless on purpose. I just thought he mistimed the back bump on the table because he missed the table.
Gotcha.
But I mean, that was like to see a vicious beatdown like that on someone that is a comedy character that's been treated like a fan favorite in the past. Yeah, that's where, to me, like, if you would have told me that opening match that Ellsworth was going to be on a bus home later that night and never be seen in the WWE again, I would have been like, well, they must have really wanted to get him out of there. Yeah, that was a different tonal, a different tone than what we've seen in previous Ellsworth matches. So yeah, talking Smack quickly, did you guys watch it last night?
I did. Yeah.
Yes, I did as well.
Interesting choice to have Rhino come out and be the salty Santa.
I thought he was pretty good. I was, when I first saw it, I was like, no, man, this is going to be, and I think if it was WWE scripted comedy, it probably could have been brutal. But Rhino, he was. I thought he was pretty entertaining. I thought, again, talking Smack, I thought was great. It just after 205 Live, it just kind of kills the flow, and I'm just ready to be done.
Rhino Claus was fantastic. I was cracking up the whole time. Just the sort of awkwardness between him and Renee was the banter was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, so I think this SmackDown Live, I mean, it feels like the end of the year, and it's interesting that both shows are doing original programming next week. Raw, we're going to have Raw the day after Christmas. Then we're going to have SmackDown the day after that. This wild card final thing, did you guys get a read on what that means exactly? I mean, we're going to have title matches, right? Every title is going to be on the line next week on SmackDown. So that's kind of a big show.
Yeah. On Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan made a point to say that that Mr. McMahon came up with it, and by Mr. McMahon he said Shane.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this one actually did come through Mr. McMahon somehow or another. He just wanted to give it a cool name. Now I do like that they're treating it as sort of like a mini pay-per-view at the end of the year. Yeah. That gives it a little more importance, maybe to boost a little viewership next week going into the new year. But I like the concept. I like the title matches, but I think the tagline was just sort of thrown on there by somebody that had a little pull.
Yeah, I Cena's back, so they want to make it a big show. I probably would have waited another week just because next week with the is right after Christmas. A lot of people are traveling and everything. But at the same time, I'm glad that it's going to be an important show because the week after Christmas is usually a throwaway.
So, do you think Cena's going to wrestle next week, or is he going to just come back and cut a promo that sets up a feud?
My guess would be that he comes back and sets up something with AJ.
Yeah.
Someone's saying no Slammy Awards this year. Nope, no Slammies this year.
Really? They could just do that online. They don't need to devote an entire, although it might be a nice change of pace. I feel like WWE creative could use a week off. It's kind of like, that problem when, I don't know if you guys watch SNL a lot, but when SNL does too many shows in a row, the quality starts to suffer. Like, man, WWE creative, I feel like these guys just 1 week out of the year. Let's just give them a little time to go home, get some new ideas.
Well, there's not any Slammies in the next 2 weeks, but they haven't closed the idea on it, so they might do it early in 2017.
Saving it for award season,
maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
But yeah, what I love with the Cena returns promos. I love that they remixed. They did the theme, the kind of like more somber version of the theme. I wish they would do that for more of the wrestlers. Like when they have a defeat, have like I just want 1 week. I want Bailey to come out to a sad version of the Bailey theme with the 2 men at half mast. Sort of leaning over, looking sad.
Yikes. Yeah, I thought the Cena return promo was cool. I think it'd be I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I like the nice touch of the more somber sort of classical type music. Something new, different. It gives him a little more important, different feel than just the same hype sort of John Cena normally gets. But I'm interested to see what happens with him next week. Will he get something with AJ? Will we see another return that may be digging holes, taking souls, stuff like that? I think we might see him show up shortly as well.
Yeah, if they're going to build that. But Raj, you were saying that you don't think Undertaker is scheduled to do the Rumble or anything in the near future?
No, I just haven't been hearing anything about that and them going in that direction since a couple of weeks ago. So, and it would be weird to have, and the house shows through the Rumble are Cena and AJ.
Yeah.
So it'd be weird to have. So I think you'd have to do something to build Cena and AJ. And if you do that, it'd be weird to build Cena and AJ and Cena and Taker. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Rumble is AJ and Cena. Undertaker had hip surgery in October. And I mean that's 3 months. So I mean we'll see. But
and sort of long-term fantasy booking here, just looking ahead, guys. To get the 16th title, you don't think Cena would get it off of AJ, would you? He would rather get it off of Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think this is the year you have to do that match, right?
Well, the 16th title is tying it, right? So is the bigger one breaking it? You know,
Very true.
So you could have Cena beating AJ. Undertaker comes in, wants one last run at the title or something at the Rumble. You know, makes a surprise. I don't know if he appears in the Rumble match itself or comes in after Cena and that's your Mania match is Cena versus Taker.
Yeah, maybe. So 205 Live last night. What happened with Neville? How'd that go? I didn't watch the show yet.
I like Neville a lot in this role. As soon as he came out with this new persona, I was like, it's about time, because heel Neville in NXT was, I thought, really good. So this new sort of edge to him on the promos, he's sort of dumbed down his moveset, a lot more power moves, a lot less acrobatics, even though he still did use the red arrow. But the tag match, it was him and Kendrick versus Perkins and Swan. That was a really, really fun tag match last night. So I enjoyed the match. A lot of good back and forth. All four guys look good.
Yeah, I think Neville, you know, looked like such a badass at the pay-per-view that I just felt like a 30-minute match when he comes back isn't the way to go. I think he should have a couple squashes, just destroy people. But, you know, other than that, the match was good. I like Neville in the division. I just think he should be kind of booked a little more Lesnar-ish, you know, for this division. Yeah, other than that, I thought it was kind of a throwaway show.
So wait, you're saying Neville is the Brock Lesnar of the cruiserweight division?
Yeah, he looks like it, doesn't he?
He very well could be. I mean, he did display a lot of his dominance. If anybody else got any offense on him last night, it was a comeback spot. Like, nobody really dominated him. So I think they booked it fairly well.
Cool. I'll have to check out the clips from that online. I think Neville, it's just great to have him back. 205 Live. And that's the thing. I feel like it's interesting right now how with all these different brands, all these different places where, you know, I go to NXT if I want to see these guys. I go to the 205 Live if I want to see these guys, SmackDown, Raw, and now we're going to have the UK. Do you think, I mean, this is just off the top of my head, but it almost seems like, now I know Raw is their most watched show, but I think there's an opportunity here. I mean, do you think that they should do more like what they've done with the cruiserweights, almost treat Raw like a hub? Like I'm assuming maybe with the UK guys, we're going to see this, like the UK champion will appear on Raw occasionally, but I think they should do the same thing. They should bring an NXT guy or two and they'd be like, yeah, and if you want to see more of them, tune into NXT every week. I feel like there's a real opportunity there for them to build interest in these other brands.
Yeah, I kind of like keeping NXT separate. Because I feel like it gives more of a buzz when they do come in, as opposed to people you've seen. But you know, a lot of I think if you had Nakamura already wrestle on Raw a couple times, it would dull the response when he does come in. You know. Yeah,
I don't know that has to be the top guy. I even think someone that's more like mid-carder. And the reason I say that, well, Raj, imagine this, man. We got 3 hours on Raw. You're not telling me like between an hour, let's work in a cruiserweight, an NXT guy, and a UK guy, and man, the other 2 hours of Raw will benefit from it.
Well, they did actually try that at one time. They had Oney Lorcan come in. I'm not sure if it was on Raw or SmackDown, but he did sort of an enhancement type match. But if you bring the mid-card NXT guys and do that, that's okay. But I don't want them bringing, say, like a Ty Dillinger, a Nakamura, a Samoa Joe, to come in and just sort of do one-offs. If they're going to do that, they might as well bring them all the way up.
And let's not forget the Vince factor. And remember the one time they did do that when they brought in Charlotte when she was the NXT Women's Champion and faced Natalya, and she was was she the Women's Champion or she was challenging for the title? But either way, she lost to Natalya on Raw when she had like a title match on the next takeover. So it would probably do them more damage than good.
Yeah, they got to come up with just a way with Raw. They need to do something with Raw. These 3 hours.
Yeah, I think the more filler you add that the mainstream people don't care about, I don't think that's going to help. Because I feel like the cruiserweights on Raw, as much as I like to see it, it kind of gives that feeling of this is the bathroom break match.
Yeah.
And it had been. Again, I think Neville could provide a spark if he's booked correctly, but we'll see.
And the answer is not Raw Talk. I watched that. Went back and caught that after the pay-per-view. How is Talking Smack so good and Raw Talk so not good?
I think Renee Young and Daniel Bryan just have a lot to do with it. They come across as organic and not trying to shill. Yeah,
Booker is very. Booker's been doing this a long time.
I think Booker, they tell him to. Is it Dasha Fuentes on Raw Talk or?
I thought it was one that sounds like.
No, it's
Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie Caruso. I feel like they tell Booker like, look, you got to make up for her, inexperience. So he tries to overcompensate a little bit. But yeah, they're it just doesn't flow at all.
Charlie's good though. I like them on the pre-show, but as far as like Raw Talk, I think Booker tries to play the grumpy old man at times and sort of push everybody's buttons. He tries to be the Daniel Bryan of that that show, but it just doesn't really work. It just sort of seems forced. Whereas if you see Daniel Bryan do it, it actually feels like, oh, I'm annoying you, aren't I? Yeah. So
the pre-shows have been weird since they've changed it up right now. So Jerry's not there, Lita's not there. So now we've got Booker, either Charlie or Renee, and then they've had podcasters. Sam Roberts was on this last one. They had another radio personality for TLC. I have to ask, this might be like the most stupid Mark question that there is, but like when a guy like Booker or when Lita was doing it on the pre-show, do they know where the match or where the story's going and how they're hyping it, or are they just out there like supposed to shoot with their viewpoints?
No, they don't. And most of the stuff they're told is on the script. So
gotcha.
They're basbasically told to this is the way they're going. Right. Yeah. Like even when they do their picks and everything, they're told who to pick.
That's amazing to me that they would script the pre-show. Like I would love to see the writers meeting for that, where and I'm sure there are arguments with two guys, and one's like, I don't think Booker would say that, man. I don't think that sounds like him, And
I think it's more like, let's make sure they don't all pick the person who's going to win. So.
Yeah, but the last couple of pre-shows just haven't been as good. I miss the old crew that they had there.
Big Tuna in the comments saying WWE is like the NFL, overexposed. I totally agree. I feel like the NFL this season's been right now. They got Saturday, Thursday, Monday, and of course all day Sunday. So it is too much.
And the NFL's got a lot more diverse. I mean, in terms of teams with the NFL, there's a lot more variety.
Right, but the ratings are down this season.
Yeah, I was gonna equate that to WWE as well. The ratings are down a little bit on both sides, NFL and WWE. So overexposure could be the fall of both brands. I don't think either brand is going to fall in any time in the next 20 years, but you're starting to see it a little bit.
Yeah, and right now with the NFL, they got double digit drop in ad revenue because of the drop in ratings. Now Raw, WWE, they're fixed for another year, another 2 at most, and then when it's time to re-up, if the NFL is dropping in ad revenue, I can't see the rights fees going up. We don't know where the TV landscape will be then, but it's not a promising sign when the NFL is dropping on that end.
Well, I think a part of it's consumption. The way people are consuming it has changed, and we're not that good at how we track all these new methods of consumption.
But you can track revenue.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, no, with ad revenue you certainly can. But I think that's the thing. I think you're going to see. I mean, you're going to see those ad buys shifting to smaller screens, as it were, and people shifting how they do media spends. So that'll be interesting to see how that further develops. But yeah, all in all, I thought this, again, man, I mean, you look, SmackDown, by just being 2 hours, it's very hard. I'm realizing the more we go on and on with this new era and post brand split, like it's hard for SmackDown to have a worse show than Raw, right? Just because of the time, like they can do more with less.
Yeah, they've done it a couple times, but but consistently, SmackDown is by far, in my opinion, a better show than Raw.
Yeah,
And
Chris?
it's not like they got better talent or anything.
Oh no,
It's just I think the time and what they do with the wrestlers, and it's not the same guys. Well, take that back.
Yeah.
but
It
I'm
is.
telling you, I'm convinced Vince thinks of SmackDown as the B show, so he does not micromanage or put as much pressure on them. It feels looser. It feels like they get to take risks more. There's just something different about it. I mean, whereas with Raw feels like I could just see Vince going beat by beat, and then at the 2-hour 15 mark, like this is what happens.
Yeah,
SmackDown doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but as far as SmackDown goes, isn't their head writer the former head NXT writer as well?
Yes.
So I think that writer brought NXT to one of its big stages. I mean, it brought it to its rise. So maybe we're sort of getting that same style and feel from SmackDown as well.
Someone was asking quickly in the comments about think we'll see a 20 women Rumble. I don't know. And I think that it would be hard to do that well. I mean, didn't NXT do something like that for the contendership spot? After Bayley left, they had like a mega women's match. And it was just like, I don't know any of these people. It was really awkward.
It can't be 20. I mean, it might be 10 or 15 because they only have 12 active on the roster, pretty much 12 to 15. So I mean, unless you brought some indie girls in, I think 10 would have to be your max just to keep everybody recognizable.
Yeah. You could do like a 10-woman Royal Rumble match on like the Raw before or SmackDown, or even on the pre-show, just to kind of get people, hyped and throw in some surprises and stuff like that. And you can even have that where Mickie James returns and wins it.
Right.
So it gets people pumped. I'm for it. I agree with you guys. I think it would have to be 10, but
they just have to
I
do
think
it well.
they should do it.
Don't put it on the pre-show. Don't make it the opening match. Do it as a cool down, worst case. But
I don't think you should have 2 Royal Rumbles on the same card. It's that's overkill.
It should just be a nonstop run. Actually, I would tune into a pay-per-view that was just 3 hours of people keep entering the Rumble. That would be a hell of a pay-per-view. But I think with the women's stuff, I'm looking forward to them doing more tournament. I think they need to develop more characters and storylines with the women as opposed to just putting them all out there. I think it would sort of get lost in the shuffle. But we'll see. The women's tournament's supposedly happening next year. So we'll see how that goes. Cool. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here, guys?
That's good for me. If you guys want to hang out with me on my personal Twitter, it's at knockdown_radio. I talk, wrestling and the sports world abroad. So y'all can follow me there and cover 205 Live and NXT for the site. And you can hang out with me on the Wrestling Inc. Twitter during Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views. Yeah,
it's going to be kind of a slow week until after Christmas. There's no WWE live event scheduled. But then, it kicks back up big time next week. So,
yep.
So yeah, to everyone watching, thanks for making this a great year. Merry Christmas to everyone. And yeah, but keep checking out the site, because that doesn't mean the site, we're not going to have a ton of stuff, because we have a ton of articles already scheduled for this weekend. So make sure to keep checking it out.
Cool. And programming note for the podcast. So the podcast is going to be off all next week, but we will be back here in 2017. Me, Raj, and Matt Morgan on Monday, January 2nd to talk about WWE Raw in the new year. And we will also have a podcast section on the site to make it easy to find like back episodes, watch it live and everything. So that's coming in early 2017. Awesome. Very nice. I just want to thank you guys again for having me on as well. Enjoyed it. No, thanks for joining us, Chris. Yeah, thanks everyone, Chris, for listening. If you like it, leave us a review, subscribe on iTunes or YouTube. And until next time, everybody, I'm Glenn Rubenstein. Have a happy holiday, and we'll see you back here in 2017 on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.